one thing was for sure. They both believed Sparks to be a total tool.
Be an exciting contest which shows that divorced couples can still have fun together, right?
Mythological hero H-list. C. On the spot dice spin.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
There's a lot of talk out in the blogosphere right now, especially with TV critics, that reality shows are doing more harm than good and exploiting the poor and the needy. We've seen this with The Briefcase and The Job. However, this isn't a recent trend, as we've seen this many a times before, especially in the golden age of television.
You know something, there just isn't any better way to put it than, would you like to be queen for a day?
One of the biggest and most iconic shows was Queen for a Day. In this show, a handful of ladies who had a sob story to tell the world would let it out in front of the studio audience. They would explain their plight to the world and what they would like on the show. Host Jack Bailey would be there with a quip and the white handkerchief because most of the time they would start sobbing, thus giving us the term sob story. After the ladies told their stories, the audience's reactions were measured via applause meter, and whoever got the best reaction would win what they were looking for and be given the title Queen for a Day. While the show was a gold mine back in the day, getting sponsors to pay $4,000 a minute for advertising and great ratings on 2 networks, historians call the show exploitative because of how it treated the ladies' stories. Looking back at it now, this is the tamest of the shows that are deemed exploitative, because at least they gave the poor women what they wanted if they won, which usually cared for their sick children or some appliance. Sure, the show's gross, but audiences are willing to revel in gross if it's done right. And Queen for a Day is gross done right. But there are other shows out there that are much, much worse, especially for this time period. One of them was a show called It Could Be You, where contestants would come on with a very embarrassing moment that happened in their lives. They would tell that, and whoever won the day would win a prize that was really more comedic than helpful, even though they were giving helpful prizes anyway. But the worst one was this show. Not only did it exploit the contestants' financial troubles, but through the power of the medium at that time, it actually got the audience to be financially irresponsible themselves to the point where it drained local charities. That is a really damning statement. And I present to you the show that caused it all, Strike It Rich.
Welcome to the fastest high-stakes game on television, the all-new Strike It Rich!
Not that one, the other one!
Hi, you know me, Warren Hull, Strike It Rich. We've all seen a lot of terrible headlines in the papers the last few days. There's one headline that I want you to take a look at. It was in the Herald Tribune, the New York Herald Tribune, this last Sunday, and it's one that we're going to be concerned with today. Pocan Camp washed away, 35 missing. Now, the Reverend Davis, the owner and the founder of that camp, will be here to strike it rich, and I sure hope he does.
From New York City, live, it's Strike It Rich!
The original incarnation of Strike It Rich is the most disgusting of the exploitative shows of the 50s. The premise of the show is that a member of the public who's gone through some financial hardship or part of a tragedy that has occurred in the news recently appears on the show and attempts to quote-unquote strike it rich. The host of this program is Warren Hull. Hull had basically done everything in the terms of entertainment for the time. He had done radio announcing, TV hosting, serious acting, and a whole slew of others. As for the show, he takes the hosting in a different direction. While not over the top as a Jack Bailey or a Bill Lyden, he was a solemn presence who treated these struggles as serious as they are. Where he does falter a bit is during interviews. He just isn't as smooth as the others and comes off as nervous a good part of the time. And with the show being mostly interviews, this is a big knock on the guy. And to be frank, Warren Hull's hosting is the least of Strike It Rich's problems. Now let's delve deeper into why the show is so vehemently hated, and it all boils down to the format and the execution. Let's take a deeper look at that right now. The show opens with the introduction of that day's celebrity known as the Helping Hand. This person is there to help out a poor soul who wrote into the program on behalf of someone to win some money. Then we get the reading of the letter, and is done in the sappiest way possible. complete with sad music and the celebrity looking all forlorn and genuinely worried about the plight that he is in. There's over the top and really over the top, and this was really over the top. If you ever wanted the stereotype of the sappy and dramatic sad reactions that you saw in game shows for the past 60 years, after hearing a sob story, this is it. It's a perfect encapsulation of what is wrong with these type of shows. And if it wasn't a celebrity, the actual contestant would be on stage to tell the tale of woe in grave detail, and why they appeared on the show and hoped to strike it rich. It is the same exploitative ways as above, just without the sappy music. And also included is a bunch of audience shots to make them look sad and depressed. This is the one that gets me more because it's 5 to 10 minutes straight of the story, which is emotionally draining in the worst way. After more talking and tugging at the heartstrings, we cut to a commercial from the sponsor, who was making bank off the show. More on that later. Then we move on to the quiz portion of the show. Yeah, that's right. Unlike Queen for a Day or It Could Be You, they made you earn the money by playing a game. The contestant starts with $30 and they could bet as little or as much of their stake on getting the answers right. This is where it gets really disgusting. The contestants pour their souls out and tell their tales of woe, and they can walk away with absolutely nothing. It's you bet your life for bastards. The max payout for this quiz is $480, which is much, much less than some of the contestants were looking for. Sometimes after the quiz, the heart line would go off, which is usually done if a contestant wins 0 on the quiz, or from time to time it just shows up at random, and someone would come out from behind the curtain and offer up some money to help them in their cause. This is my second biggest problem with the show in its entirety, and that is it's nothing original or new. It's cribbing Queen for a Day's tug on the heartstrings grossness with You Bet Your Life's original radio-style question round and makes them both worse. Warren Hall doesn't have Bailey's quickness and wit to make it somewhat light when it came to the stories, or Groucho Marx's timing with the questions. But the biggest problem that the show had, in my opinion, was not only the exploitation of the contestants, but the exploitation of the viewers at home and future contestants of the show who came up to New York and drained local charities, and how they were revolted at this show. The show was such a hit that those with a sob story that could get them on the show spent all of their money just to get to New York and prayed that they got on the show. Even though they were warned by the show's producers that they had a high rejection rate for contestants, the audience didn't care and instead drained the local Salvation Army to help them get back home. The selected plates levied against the show via the charities and local authorities, but that didn't deter the show from changing up anything. It was still highly rated and the producers thought they were untouchable, but the hits just kept on coming. Reviews for the show were damning, with the New York City Commissioner of Welfare calling it, quote, a disgusting spectacle and a national disgrace. That led the commission to file a lawsuit against the show for unlicensed fundraising and actually won a conviction against the show. The Travelers Aid Society, a charity that helped and protected vulnerable travelers from being victimized by shysters, said about the show, putting human misery on display can hardly be called right. The Family Service Association of America said flatly, victims of poverty, illness, and everyday misfortune should not be made a public spectacle or seemingly to be put on the position of begging for charity. But the producers washed their hands of the controversial nature of the show and kept going. The networks had a different take, saying that, quote, we don't want anything that would antagonize the sponsor. Statements like that became wildfire for the upcoming quiz show scandals in 1958. Strike It Rich was canceled in January of that year, so it never really was fully investigated by the authorities. My feeling that it did get fully investigated like 21 did, it would have done even more damage to the genre and led to possible criminal convictions of the producers. Exploiting their audiences for financial gain was damning enough, and they didn't care whatsoever because of all the money they were making on other people's miseries. And that is why this show is one of the worst game shows of all time. Well, there's 2 more inductions left, and those are the Wayney Award winners. You'll find out who won the Wayneys a couple days from now on the website, and the first video will be up September 12th. Bye-bye!
You